Hall of Famers as we begin this morning's ceremony. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. And on behalf of the Lenoir-Rhyne Sports Hall of Fame Committee, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 44th Annual Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony. You know, the Hall of Fame was established back in 1976. It was designed to recognize the noteworthy athletic tradition of Lenoir-Rhyne athletics through honoring individuals who have made extraordinary efforts and contributions through that tradition. Now, some of those individuals are here with us this morning. We'd like to recognize them. Let's give them a round of applause. Our Hall of Famers who are with us in this special ceremony. And you know, over the past year or so, the family of Lenoir-Rhyne has lost several Hall of Famers. We would be remiss if we did not remember the following people in a moment of silence. Mr. Walt Cornwell, Norman Punch, Joe Murphy, Pappy Hamilton, and Tom Brown. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Mr. Joseph Edwards, FCA Rep for Lenoir-Rhyne, with today's invocation.
Good morning. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Father, thank you for waking each one of us up this morning. Again, it means you have an opportunity and you have things for us to do today. So we want to humble ourselves before you. So much wonderful things you're doing right here at Lenoir-Rhyne University. Some of the great coaches and people who've been here to serve, to honor. You're doing wonderful things through them. So today, God, we just ask you, we just lift up Mike Houston and his family, God, and just let it be an honor, a ceremony of just giving thanks for what he's done, all the seeds that he sowed here while he served here, and all the fruit for all the young men that he coached, that lives will change because of his diligence. Father, we just thank you. So we just ask you just to bless this service and let it be all about you. And we give you praise for it right now. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Everybody said? Amen.
At this time, my pleasure to introduce the Vice President of Athletics, who has been here, I guess, about 5 years now. You had a recent anniversary, I guess. Ms. Kim Pate.
Well, welcome, everybody. This is actually the first event that we have hosted on our campus for over a year. So this is amazing for us, and certainly a very special moment and the appropriate way for us to get back to celebrating all that is Lenoir-Rhyne University. But welcome to our Bears alumni and all who are joining us for this special ceremony. A warm welcome back to all of our Hall of Fame members, and my personal congratulations to Mike Houston for this distinct honor. The Lenoir-Rhyne Sports Hall of Fame is held in reserve as the highest athletics recognition bestowed by the university. It is intended to recognize and perpetuate the noteworthy accomplishments and the tradition of Lenoir-Rhyne by honoring and memorializing individuals who have made extraordinary contributions to the tradition. Today, we are pleased to celebrate the induction of Mike Houston into the distinctive class of honorees, and we look forward to celebrating the remaining 5 inductees of this extraordinary 2020 class in October. But before we get started with the ceremony, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank the members of the Hall of Fame committee, along with Sheena Holler, Coach Holler, for her leadership as the chair of the committee. I would also like to express my deep appreciation for Juju Phillips for his long-standing service to the Hall of Fame and for once again enthusiastically agreeing to MC today's ceremony. So join me in welcoming Juju back to the podium as we begin our program.
You know, over the years, we've heard the inductees talk about, stand up here and describe in our interviews what Lenoir-Rhyne has meant to them, or the foundation that was built, or the seeds, as you heard Joe say, that were planted, and how they've been impacted by this place. And as they look back on their lives, and maybe most importantly, the relationships that they formed and were formed and fostered here during their time at Lenoir-Rhyne. That eventually served them in the pursuit of their life's work. In some cases, it shaped and impacted their lives greatly. And in our case today, the coaching excellence that Mike brought to Lenoir-Rhyne back starting in 2007 as he was an assistant coach at Lenoir-Rhyne. So with all of that, we have a special presentation, obviously. And at this time, we're going to bring up a couple of people, the guy that I like to call the architect of the renaissance of Lenoir-Rhyne football back in 2007, the 17th head coach at Lenoir-Rhyne, Fred Goldsmith. We originally had a panel here. He was going to join us. He's unfortunately unable to join us, but we have him by phone. And we're going to talk to Fred and get his remembrances on what it was like bringing Mike Houston aboard and some of the other things that he remembers first about Mike Houston. Coach, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Juju. I'm great. I'm sorry that I can't be there. I was on my way today, and just unfortunately, something happened. And anyway, I want to say hello to all the former players and Lance Shealy and everybody that's there that's so dear to my heart. And of course, Mike and Mike I talked earlier today. But yeah, I'm excited for Mike. I really am. And excited for the way things are going at LR too. Kim Faith and President, it's just, y'all have put together a wonderful, wonderful program there. And Mike had so much to do with getting it rolling.
Coach, this is almost like a this is your life kind of moment. See if you can remember, go back a few years. What did you see in Mike that you hired him to be a part of your first staff?
Well, one thing I knew he could recruit, which is very important because I've met his wife Amanda several times with him in years, many years before that. So I knew once I knew Amanda that Mike was a good recruiter, that's for sure. And then, but Mike took over. Actually, when I became the coach at Franklin High School, my first week I tried to hire Mike, but he got the head coaching job.
Coach, I remember you and Mike I would see you guys walking around campus together sometime. Can you kind of share with us some of those conversations and what those were like?
You want an honest answer? I don't really remember a whole lot. I think we were probably talking about a golf game. Now, when we had time to walk around the campus and really sometimes, and Brian Hill, we'd walk around there with Brian Hill. Brian Hill was like the mayor of Hickory. I mean, everybody knew Brian Hill when he walked around the campus or all the way down to the golf course, you know, and just everywhere we used to walk. So we probably, I'd like to tell you it was a lot of football strategy, and maybe it was, and maybe complaining about a few things, but probably a lot of it was about the golf game that we'd have the afternoon or something, you know. And so we were just having a good time. I was trying to just keep my weight down, and we were both trying to help Brian lose weight.
Coach, I remember a couple of conversations we've had, and I've interviewed you. You have spoken that Mike was almost like a son to you. When did you know that Mike was ready to take over the reins at LR?
Oh, like I said before, Mike was an outstanding head coach. I knew all he had to learn was that some of the differences in college. One thing was he had to learn to be patient. You know, you start out with 18-year-olds, some 17-year-old freshmen, and especially to play in the line, you have to wait for those guys to grow up because it's, you know, up front in the trenches, it's a man's game, you know, and it's hard for those kids to compete with 22, 23-year-old guys. But, you know, when he started learning the nuances of you know, college football like that, the talent and the leadership. Mike Houston's a very smart man. Now, Mike Houston was accepted in medical school at East Carolina. And you know, so he was very smart. Like I said, he knows strategy, and he knows how to work with people. So, you know, I really felt comfortable that he could take that thing over. And as time went on, the big thing both of us had to learn, crying out loud in Division II, is the scholarship, the way the money's divvied up, and things like that. Very, very, you know, a hard thing to do. And then the combination of the different things that we had to learn from the academic money, the other grant money, all those kind of things. And Mike had a good handle on that. And Mike could use that computer a whole lot better than me. So every time we had a recruit in, Mike was the guy that figured up how much you know, we could do this, could do that. He put it on, he printed it out for me. And all I had to do was sit down with the boy and his parents and say, you know, explain here's what it was. But if it hadn't been for Mike putting it together and printing that thing out, crying out loud, I'd have been lost. So, you know, he got more and more ready every day, and he and I talked, and we knew. And then I guess maybe right before that last season I was there, he knew from the get-go at that time, and he took more and more responsibility on and everything as the assistant head coach. And, you know, so that was our plan. And then we shared it with Neil about 6 months after the season, and Neil hired Mike. And then I got to come watch all sorts of playoff games that we've never been in, and all sorts of good things. And Mike would let me sing the fight song with the players, but he was ready. You know, it was just a matter of time. He was going to be ready because he was always a great head coach.
Coach, as we wrap things up, we thank you for your stories and your time this morning. And finally, as you wrap things up, what are some of the things you'd like to say to Mike right now, and how proud you are of him and what he's accomplished in his, you know, in his coaching career, from Lenoir-Rhyne all the way to the Citadel, James Madison, and now at East Carolina?
Well, I've been blessed because Mike has kept me a part of it. I was there for the win against South Carolina at the Citadel. I was there for the first game at James Madison, for the first game at ECU. I saw, you know, how the team developed because he had me back a few times at James Madison and everything. You know, I'm so proud of him.
Coach, thank you very much. God bless you.
God bless you, Choo-Choo. Give my best to Jack, too.
Okay, thank you very much. Fred Goldsmith. Let's bring up Marcus and Jamont Jones, a couple of former Bears, played for Coach Houston. And we're going to have a little discussion more on their time here, what they remember. Guys, just have a seat. Good to see you. So, you guys hit the mute button. It's yellow and it should turn green. You got it? All right. Marcus, I remember, and maybe Coach Houston does too, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about your play at LR is, go back to 2010, the Bears were in the process of having the first winning season in 16 years, and you played a game up at Brevard, and you shut them down. They had maybe 30 or 40 yards of total offense. They ran the wishbone just like we did, and I think that was maybe a short time after Coach Houston had hip surgery, maybe, or some type of hip issue, and I remember interviewing you, and I interviewed Coach Houston after the game because Coach G wanted to give you guys the defense credit and Coach Houston credit for winning that game. What do you remember as you look back at your LR career? You were the 2010 South Atlantic Conference Defensive Player of the Year. What do you remember playing for Coach Houston?
So first of all, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Coach Houston, congrats. You deserve everything. I think Coach Houston, I won't take up you guys' time. Mike Houston, we were the part of the first recruiting class of Goldsmith and Houston and Ron Boyd and all those guys that came up. Two things I remember for Houston. Freshman year, playing Morris Hill. Of course, Mike Houston is a Morris Hill guy. So we go to Morris Hill. I'm a freshman. I get called up to start. And here we are. We're in I'm playing free safety. And Morris Hill's lined up in a pro-I style offense, and they run a power G to my side. So the linebacker, Dwayne Jones, stepped down, spilled the play to me. Morris Hill's on a 35 going in. Next thing you know is it's a bang play. Me and the running back, Chappelle Rose, head up. Next thing you know, I look up. I'm on my back. Chappelle Rose is in the end zone. And so the first thing, that was my first time ever being ran over like that. Right after the game, we lose the game. Right after the game, Houston looks at me and said, listen, you're going to have mistakes like that. I just want you to learn from it. And we did. We watched film. I think we only watched that film one time. And that was the end of it. The rest of my 4 years there. But just the fire and passion that he showed. Even when I was down at my lowest point after the Morris Hill game, the respect, the admiration, the love, the level just went from whatever it was to infinity for Mike Houston. So that just shows you the type of guy he is. He trusted me, he trusted us, and I trusted him back. The second time was just my senior year in 2010. We go to Carson Newman and we beat the daylights out of him. Just seeing his face. Everything clicked for Lenoir-Rhyne that Saturday morning. And just knowing that we beat Carson Newman, the team that was known, has a history of beating us, Lenoir-Rhyne, 30-plus points every year. First time we beat them in a long time. And just seeing Mike Houston's face, just all smiles, tears. Those are two things that I won't ever forget about Mike Houston and my time at LR.
Jamont Jones. Jamont, you came from Eastern North Carolina. What do you remember about your time in playing for Coach Houston?
Well, as Coach Goldsmith said, we know that Coach Houston's a elite recruiter. And for me, I was recruited as an athlete, so I may have been 160 pounds soaking wet coming out of high school. So I was either going to play offense or defense, and I wasn't quite sure. Well, Coach Houston called me about a week before camp report day and said, Jamont, I'd like to tell you you're gonna be a defensive back. And with my height and weight, I'd rather hit somebody than get hit, for sure. So I was super excited and happy, and from that moment on, we became family. As a freshman, like I said, I was a teeny tiny guy. And Coach Houston coached me so hard And he also had a lot of confidence in me. I had an opportunity to start about 3 or 4 games my freshman year, and I just thought a lot about him for giving me an opportunity to start as a very small kid coming out of a small high school.
Marcus, when you look back at your career in playing, was it different, you think? And I'll ask Jamont the same question. You played for Coach Houston as a defensive coordinator, though he stayed as defensive coordinator when he was the head coach. How do you think he was different as a defensive coordinator as opposed to the head coach?
I would say nothing changed. I spent my waking hours in football with Mike Houston as a positions coach. So every time I was on the football field or something football related, we were always with Mike Houston. I would say, honestly, the reins were just given to him. That's the only thing that changed. But just seeing how he interacted with us, taught us, practiced with us, coached us every day, I'm 100% sure nothing changed from when he was my D coordinator, positions coach, to head coach for Jamont.
What kind of impact has he had on your life?
Football? Truth. I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by great coaches, all through rec league, middle school, high school. But to end my career under Coach G and Mike Houston, just the amount of respect he's given me over the years at LR and taught me how to conduct myself as a man. I feel like I can owe everything to him as a football player at LR and as a man and a father in the real world. So, yes, everything. Thank you.
Jamont, you're now coaching at his alma mater, right? Newton Conover.
Go Devils.
What kind of impact has Coach Houston had on you and also in your coaching journey?
Well, similar to Marcus, we all were in the same defensive back meeting room and spend a lot of time together. A lot of time, and we're all directly or indirectly influenced by the people we're around the most, and that's so true with Coach Houston. We were speaking earlier, and actually, when COVID first hit, we all transitioned to this virtual world. Well, I had 3 of my coaches on a Zoom meeting with his whole coaching staff. And that's just the kind of guy he is, and he's always accessible. And if I need anything, I know that he'll be there for me and encourage me the best he can.
All right, thanks, guys. We do appreciate it as Jamont Jones, Marcus Schufer, a couple of former Great Bears, joining us this morning. Before we bring Mike up, we ask you to take a look at the side monitors and the screens. And here is our tribute to head coach Mike Houston.
In the recent history of Lenoir-Rhyne Sports Hall of Fame, few had left the kind of impact as Mike Houston. The Franklin, North Carolina native arrived in 2007 as defensive coordinator and secondary coach on Fred Goldsmith's staff. When he left 7 years later, he was considered the engineer who put the Lenoir-Rhyne football program back on the national stage. In 2010, when Lenoir-Rhyne had its first winning season in 16 years, Houston's defense led the SAC and was ranked 4th nationally.
Thank you. To say that I'm excited about this opportunity would be a massive understatement. I've been preparing for this job for a while. I'm grateful to be standing here today as the new head football coach at Lenoir-Rhyne University.
When he was elevated as the 18th head coach in school history 10 years ago, few could have imagined the transformation Lenoir-Rhyne football would have in just 3 years. A 29-8 overall record and the best winning percentage in school history. 3 straight South Atlantic Conference championships. 3 straight Conference Coach of the Year honors. And the first playoff appearance in 50 years. Then in 2013, the run to the Division II National Championship game and a school record 13 wins.
Best week of the year this week. Best week of the year. Mike Houston has done an outstanding job as the football coach at Lenoir-Rhyne. Here we go, Indy, Indy, Indy. After losing the first game of the season, the Bears have won 13 games in a row to advance all the way to the Division II National Championship game.
So they've worked so hard to earn the right to be here. I want to make sure that everybody enjoys themselves and has fun, enjoys the journey.
From coaching 11 All-Americans to countless All-Conference players, Lenoir-Rhyne football fans will always remember when it comes to Mike Houston, he left the LR football program better than he found it.
School record, 12th regular season win!
Ladies and gentlemen, the Hall of Fame is about records and memories. Memory provides us access to the past as it constantly recedes away from us. This morning, we remember and pay tribute to the coaching achievements of Mike Houston, who becomes the 156th member inducted into the Lenoir-Rhyne Sports Hall of Fame.
Coach, did Fred leave anything out?
Well, now, you know, Coach G, he could have went for hours, so we left a lot out. But I will say this, just for those of you that are close to him. I mean, he was really, it bothered him a lot that he could not be here this morning, and you know, he's going through some tough stuff right now. Just, you know, I hope we can all keep him in our prayers right now. So,
What, if you put into words, what does it mean to be inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame and what you accomplished here?
for me, it's just, you know, honored, humble. You know, the best thing for me about this is just an opportunity to say thank you to some very special people. And Coach Goldsmith's one of them. The players that are here this morning, I mean, that's the thing I've thought about all week as I've gotten ready to come down here, is just all the players that were here during that time, just the relationships and everything we shared. And I spent last night, spent hours with 3 or 4 players just telling stories. And you know, I see the guys this morning as I showed up here. And, you know, there's not enough time in the day to spend with them, you know, to catch up. And but there's so many great memories. And you know, I think it's just an opportunity to say thank you. That's the biggest thing for me.
What are a couple of the memories that stick out to you the most?
We have a lot. I mean, we don't have time for all of them. But you know, when you think back to that 2013 season, I mean, everybody's going to remember the game in the rain, the Westchester game in the rain, and you know, winning the national semifinal game. But you know, probably the biggest thing that stands out to me is just the transformation of the program. And you know, I was talking to Johnny Moe last night, and I said, you know, the biggest thing for me when I got the head coaching job was, you know, I didn't necessarily feel pressure from the administration or pressure from, you know, the fan base at large. I felt pressure to not let everyone down that believed in me, to not let the alumni that I knew were responsible for me getting the job. You know, that was one thing that drove me, is to not let them down, because you know, this place, we'll talk a little bit about it in just a second, just what makes it special, but it's the people. And it's the people that have been here, it's the people that are here, and you know, so for me, the things that I remember the most is just the transformation of the program for those people. You know, it'd been since, you know, the early 1970s since Lenoir-Rhyne had beaten Carson. You know, Carson Newman was, you know, the year in, year out, they were the team to beat in the league. And that all changed in about a 5-year period. I mean, they took some of the worst losses in school history at the hands of the Lenoir-Rhyne Bears, and Marcus Schufert and Mike Green and Jamont Jones and Jason Arenas and Brandon Martin and all those guys. And it's just what we did together. And that's the biggest memory I take away. There's just so many great moments.
In following you, standing on the sidelines all those years in broadcasting, you always heard about how Lenoir-Rhyne, how tough they played and how disciplined they were. Those were two of the signature things about this football program that you helped instill.
Well, that's just, you know, it's a credit to the players and the coaches. And it's what we believed in. You know, we believed that, you know, you win championships by running the football and stopping the run. And no offense, Johnny Moe, I still feel that way. Okay. Now we're going to throw the ball 40 times a game this year. I've already promised my quarterback that. But if we can't run the football and stop the run, you know, we're not going to win those big ball games late in the year against the quality teams. And that's kind of the trait that I tried to sell to our players, that they believed in, and because of that belief and that trust in each other, you know, we developed into that kind of team. And it's, you know, it was evident every week we played, you know, it was going to be a war. But it's really, it goes back to those kids and just the way, it was just them. I mean, that's what it was, just the way they were with us.
Was this place, when you took over as head coach and even when you were an assistant, and those guys talked about recruiting, was it an easy sell to get them to come to Lenoir-Rhyne once you started to get the ball rolling?
Well, once we got it rolling, yes. Early on, it was tough. You know, that's, you know, I think anybody that walks around this campus, you know, I got some time this morning when I got here, and I just wanted to walk around and just see everything again. It's, you know, just the beautiful campus. You know, we have great facilities here. I know they're continuing to upgrade those, and those things are very, very important for recruiting. That's what you have to sell the kids on in the beginning. You know, that's all we had to sell them on in the very beginning. How we convinced Marcus to come here, I don't know. How we got Hollywood to come out of Florida to come up here, I don't know. Brandon Martin, I mean, we were not a good program when we recruited you guys. You know, you guys were truly here through the transformation. You know, we were a little bit better when Jamont and Mike got here, but not much. But it's, you know, so you had to sell vision. And I think the vision was what we could be, you know, what potential we had. Now, once we got the thing rolling, and then it was much easier to recruit. You could bring in, you know, top guys a little bit easier. But it was those, you know, the 2007, 2008, 2009 years that weren't a whole lot of fun for anybody. Those are the years that really, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13, that's the results. You know, those came from the hard work of all those guys. You know, Marcus, I remember that game. I remember that run. I also remember your senior year when you were there to make that play, and you made that play, and they had like 24 yards rushing on the day. You know, it's watching that hard work and that development of those players that they put in over that time. You know, that's really what made it, and that's when recruiting became easier. But it's on their backs.
How much did this being a Christian-based university, how much of effect did it have on you? I know you talked about it, and Coach G talked about it as well. How important was it to you to have that?
Well, I've tried to screw up my career path many times, and that's why I said I can look back, and it's easier to see looking back than sometimes it is in the present time. But you know, there's no doubt that God had His hand, you know, on me, my family, and our path bringing us here. And certainly our faith is important to us, but also it's just, you know, that faith is what, you know, helped us through some of those tough times and kept us committed. And then you look back and you see how doors were opened and doors were closed, and even to this day. And so I think that, you know, this institution, that's part of what I talked about it being a special place, is the people, the faith-based, the way everything is here, it being a Christian-based school. I think that's an important piece of the fiber of Lenoir-Rhyne University, and I think that's what makes it the place that it is.
As you wrap things up, what are some final thoughts as you look back? What are you going to remember most about your time here?
The people. I mean, that's, you know, we're in the middle of COVID, and it's been a rough year, and I look at the faces that are in here this morning, and so many that aren't able to be here this morning, and it's the memories of all of you, and it's the memories of the ones that aren't here with us. It's, you know, the three Bears, which I think were highly influential in me being hired, Hank McQuarrie and Bob Miller and the late John David Moose. It's their commitment to this program. It's the kind of people that they are. It's the three amigos that we were together with last night. And you guys always have to be in threes. I don't know why, you know. But, you know, Johnny Moe and Marvin Everett and Roger Maxey. And those are just examples of the alums that, you know, it's their commitment. You know, those are the people that none of us wanted to let down. It's the commitment of everybody else. Because the one thing is, you know, I am honored to be going into the Hall of Fame here, but the reason I'm sitting up here is because of those guys. It's because of Rick and Rachel Nichols. I mean, you cannot understand the impact that they had on our program, because all those financial aid packages and admission stuff. I mean, how many times did I sit in your office, Rachel, trying to convince you of some kid in the school and that I needed $5,000 more, or he wasn't coming? You know, or Rick, I have to have a little bit more money for this assistant coach, or he's going to leave, or he's not going to be here. And they always found a way to help. But that's the way everybody was. Everybody always found a way to help. You know, when I talked to Lance about, wanting to do, devotions a certain way with the kids on Friday night, or wanting to find a way to send a kid, to some SCA retreat or something, because I think it'll be impactful in his life. He always found a way to help. And it's the people are what I'm going to always remember. And, I don't think we can sit here and talk about this period of time without talking about Neil McGahee. And I do want to just, before we end, just say a little piece about Neil. We all know Neil was an interesting guy, okay? And we all have our stories about Neil. I have many. I'm convinced that Fred knew exactly what he was doing when he sent Amanda with me to interview with Neil that morning. That would be impactful. But, the one thing with Neil is nobody loved Lenoir-Rhyne University more than Neil McGahee. And if it were not for him, the program would not be where it is today. When the president at that time had decided that we weren't the right staff and wanted to make a change, and Neil encouraged him to have patience, if he had not had that kind of vision, I would never have been the head coach here. After I became the head coach here, there's not one time that I ever felt like I was not fully supported by Neil in every single way, no matter what. When I left, he gave me the cufflinks I have on. He was always cufflinks and Adidas shoes. That's his kind of. He always supported us, and I will never forget that. And so I think that, me sitting up here has a lot to do with Neil McGahee and his commitment to myself, to the program, to the university, and it's just, you cannot say enough about that. So I just thank all of you, Les, Ryan. Appreciate your friendship when I was here in town, and our golf matches out on the links, wherever that may be, and just the other alums that are here today, Aaron, a member of our staff when I was here. I just want to say thank you to everyone. I have 3 coaches on my staff now that were here with me. Blake Carroll is our defensive coordinator at East Carolina. Roy Tesh is our defensive line coach, and Teron Williams is our director of player development. And those guys, the coaches that are at the Citadel, all those guys were a big part of doing all this. So I just, for me, it's just saying thank you to everyone for just a part of my life that is the reason I am where I am today. My 2 sons were born here in Hickory. This is always going to be home to us. Amanda and I, we were talking last night, talking this morning on the phone. This is a place that we'll never forget. And we're just so thankful for the opportunity here.
Well, thank you, Coach. Fans, let's give him a hand. Mike Houston, member of the 2021 Sports Hall of Fame.
What time is it?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, take a look at your program. We're going to have the alma mater and the fight song. As we leave you to this morning, don't forget, the entire Hall of Fame class will be inducted this fall when we get back to normal. 2021. Meantime, let's go win us a championship later today. Go Bears. Thank you for attending. We'll see you out there in a few hours. As always, go Bears.